Hi, and thanks for joining us for our fifth Yetis Without Borders podcast. My name is Patrick, and I am joined again by Zach and Tim. Today we're going to discuss 2016's Suicide Squad, starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and Jared Leto. Before we get too far into it, this is our third podcast of the day. So if we peter off and if we randomly discuss other things like we have done in every other podcast we've ever done, just kind of bear with us. You'll get through it, and we will give you some Suicide Squad backstories and opinions and stuff like that.
Should be our tagline for the podcast. You'll get through it.
Yeah,
it will end eventually.
That's not bad.
If you let it play, eventually the time will come to the end, and the podcast will stop.
That's true. It will indeed end. So, Timothy and I going into it, we all saw it separately from one another. But I know Timothy and I had not read any of the Suicide Squad comics. Didn't really know an abundance of the backstory, whereas Zach knew, I want to say, most of the backstory.
I've read the John Ostrander run, which is really where like the supervillains doing government jobs. That's where he created the idea. That's where Boomerang and Waller and Deadshot, Captain Boomerang and Deadshot existed previously, but that was really where they got their current personalities. And then I've read a little bit of the New 52 stuff. I read Sean Ryan's New Suicide Squad, which was more like the lineup of the movie where Harley is around by that point and didn't have Killer Croc.
I watched an animated feature. I think it's called Assault on Arkham.
Yeah, it's Batman Assault on Arkham, and it's actually part of the Arkham games continuity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they touch on the Suicide Squad, and that's basically all I knew going into this Suicide Squad movie. Other than there are characters that live in the Bat universe, the Bativerse, if you will.
I mean more than that, just the DC universe.
Yeah, absolutely. But I knew very little outside of that animated feature.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew that I love Will Smith probably more than anyone should.
Big Willie.
I think he's fucking great.
Yikes.
That's the way it is. I'm not a huge fan of Margot Robbie. I know a lot of people
Is
are.
it Robbie or Robbie?
I've heard Robbie. I've always heard Robbie.
I've heard Robbie.
I've heard her say Robbie as well. So.
Is that because of her accent?
She doesn't really have an accent. I don't know where she's from.
Isn't she Australian?
I think she is.
I think
yeah.
she's Australian.
Sorry, she probably says Margot Robbie.
Well, that's her name, so she probably does say that.
Yeah.
She should have played Captain Boomerang.
She should. Oh my God.
It would have been great.
I would have totally been fine for a gender swap, Captain Boomerang.
Yeah. I like Jared. No, I don't like Jared Leto, but I think he's a good actor.
He is.
Other than that, I love Adewale Agbaje Akinoue, who plays Killer Croc.
Wow.
Holy
What
shit.
you tried? I would have said Mr. Echo.
Dude was in. He was in Oz.
I would have said
Lost.
Dude in Born Identity.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I don't know his name.
That's his full name, and he is 100% from England. I think he's great.
He has a very proper British accent.
Very
for being
posh.
like looks very scary. He's a very scary looking dude.
Yeah.
He's just like very prim, like
He really is. He's like Idris Elba before Idris Elba existed to me. So, I mean, initial thoughts of the movie were, I enjoyed it. I mean, I think that it was they kind of tried to do a mixture between Batman vs. Superman for the darkness and Guardians of the Galaxy for some lighthearted stuff, and I think it kind of fell short on both fronts, but I still enjoyed it.
I am going to come into conflict with your opinion completely. I loved it. I haven't told either of you guys what I thought of it before we're talking about it right now. I went into it only reading a few of the headlines of reviews, one of which was, if you hate somebody, not dislike them, but genuinely hate them, buy them a ticket to Suicide Squad. That was one of the headlines of the reviews, and I could not have been any more excited to see this movie, just to know what made it so goddamn awful that this, that it's used as an attack on a person you hate. But I don't even have to talk about that because everything about it was great. I thought the pacing was great, the comedy was good, I don't want to give too much away of the movie. I'm sure I'll inevitably spoil stuff because I'm terrible for it.
It's been out for a good couple weeks. I think
we're good.
We can do maybe we'll do like a little. We'll give all our basic thoughts and then we'll go heavy into spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to not talk about spoilers. I definitely want to talk about spoilers.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well, there was some mention made about how and they used the word zombie, how the zombie army of bad guys was pretty poorly done, but number one, I didn't see them as zombies. I don't even know what the shit you'd call them, but I enjoyed them. I didn't find any conflict with it. I genuinely, the only issue I had with the movie was that Killer Croc wasn't big enough, and when I think of Killer Croc, we're like 8-9 feet tall, giant, big, large, monster. But I can understand why they went the way they did, so it's not even a problem for me. I literally have nothing. That's a lie. I feel like they kind of. I don't know what angle they're going at, but the soundtrack was too many popular songs for me.
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of go into the behind-the-scenes stuff. I think there's a reason why there's all those songs.
Okay, so we'll deal with that. My initial thoughts, loved it. No real issues. Zach, go ahead.
I feel like I'm going to be the most split. It's weird because I feel like I'm also the biggest DC fan here. But as a DC adaptation, I think it was great. It was probably the closest we've ever gotten to a movie actually feeling like what I think of as the DC universe. But I also think the movie is a complete mess and is totally chopped together and I'm surprised you said it had good pacing. I feel like it had real pacing problems, especially towards the end. But I like a lot of the performances in the movie. I've been really going back and forth. I definitely am going to go see it again. I think it maybe has my favorite costumes of any superhero movie. Like, I really like the design of all the characters. I like the colors of the movie. I like the visuals of the movie. I like that he just he just went for it, like, they were just like, it's a comic book movie, Batman's gonna show up, like, it's fun. It's, but I guess, like, I see why it's getting such bad reviews. I see why people are saying it's as bad as Fantastic Four. I don't think it's as bad as Fantastic Four, but I do think it's as poorly made of a movie in some ways. I think it came together better, and I think what it initially was better than what Fantastic Four initially was.
Yeah, I can agree on that. I'm not saying that I thought it was great or anything. I enjoyed it. I would also say, I want to see the movie. I want to see the Ultimate Batman vs Superman edition of this, because you can tell that there were a lot of parts that they cut out. There were a lot of issues just in they do a lot of scene jumping where they're immediately in the next spot, and random things happen like that, and that's all well and good. It happens in movies all the time. But in this, when they're working on the 13-block radius that they're working on, it seems a little weird to do scene jumping like that for me.
Yeah.
But it was, the biggest problem I had with the movie specifically is that it was dark. And, visually, I went and see it in 3D because we went to the VIP theater, and 3D already gets dull or, darkened because of the glasses. So I'm watching it, and, things coming at me, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's a black ball that's coming at me. I don't fucking understand what it is.
That's where I maybe didn't have that issue because I purposely didn't see it in 3D.
I think it was pointless to see it in 3D. There were barely any 3D moments.
Yeah.
That would be...
I can't
like
think
most
of
3D movies, it's no reason to see it in 3D.
Exactly. There's not a single movie where...
Star Trek 3 was pretty good, too.
Every now and then you get one where you're... And that's always the one I don't go see. It's the one I don't see in 3D, and people are like, this is the one that was actually good in 3D.
Yeah.
Animated movies are usually good in 3D.
Yeah, but they didn't have the regular version in the VIP theater, so that's just what we did. And other people, obviously, you guys didn't have that problem, but it was a problem for me because I'm watching it and I can't fucking see anything. I mean, I see Will Smith is the lightest thing in the movie, and he's the fucking black guy.
I have experienced, maybe this is just cinema in general, but as of late, if a team is making a dark movie, the plot, the story, the character motivation is dark, they actively choose to thusly make the visuals dark. And I find that movies are visually darker these days, and some things get lost on me because it's really hard to see. Yeah, but this was not one of them for me. I want to clarify.
That's fair. They've historically kind of done that. Light movies are always going to be lighter. The Man Dressed in White's always going to be the hero. The biggest one that didn't do that would be Clockwork Orange, I guess, where the villain is only dressed in white. But he's not even really the villain. He's just crazy. That's
Who's the hero of that movie?
I don't know.
You know?
That's
He's both the hero.
yeah. So I mean,
So would he be the protagonist?
yeah, probably.
Hey, it probably is. Yeah.
I just made up a word.
Francis.
Coined.
So I mean, the general plot line of the movie is 5 or 6 like supervillains are all in like supermax prisons, and they get pooled together by the government to make a team, like a ragtag team, to help stop metahumans in the DC universe, being Superman and Aquaman and the Flash, not Batman. He's a regular human, but he's seemingly the only one that can beat them, which is really confusing to me. And they have to go and save the world because everyone else is just too busy on this day, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I kept expecting Batman to show, but I thought we were going to get an explanation for why he didn't, because they even make a big thing about they have these chips in their neck, and Joker goes to, like, that's how they control the supervillains, is they have chips in their neck to, like, blow up their bombs. And Joker tracks down the company that makes the chips. They make a big deal of saying that it's a subsidiary of Wayne Tech.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that, like, Joker showing up was going to make Batman show up. He is in the movie, but he doesn't show up in the main plot.
Yeah, there was a thing on the internet somewhere where they were saying that they liked this iteration of Batman more than any of the other ones prior to it because he was always doing what he had to do to save the villain, to bring them to justice and not have them die.
I 100%, this is, for the maybe 3 minutes of screen time Batman has, this is officially the best on-screen Batman. Like, I love the Nolan movies, but they don't really capture the comic Batman. They're not, he's doing a different thing. So, to see comic book Batman, like, I watched Kevin Smith's review of Suicide Squad, and he put it really well, where, like, it was so nice to see him take, like, the cuffs off his belt to bring in Deadshot, as opposed to the Batman v Superman version, where this is Kevin Smith's words, where he would just shoot him in the head and see, like, oh, another one down, brand his corpse. Yeah. Which is how it feels in Batman v Superman, where he's just wasting dudes. Whereas, exactly, like, I love in the moment, like, one of my favorite, I love all the Joker Harley stuff, to be honest, but the moment where they're chasing Harley and Batman dives underwater and Harley's just been left there, like the Joker's pieced out as he does, left Harley to die, and Batman tries to save her. I love that. And then I love the moment where he punches her out.
Yeah, that was in 3D to me.
That was great.
Like, that was the only 3D thing I remember is you see Margot Robbie's arm like fly out at Batman, and then he just punches her in the face. And I was like, why would they show that in 3D? Like, it's not even coming at me. It's clearly swung at him. I didn't even understand.
And then he gives her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I love it. That's my Batman. That's the Batman who saves people.
Assault in the third dimension, followed by life-saving.
Right?
Thanks, Wayne.
When she makes out with him, great. That was great. Great moment.
No,
done really well.
Can I veer off for a sec?
Probably.
Can we talk about the branding in Batman versus Superman? Now, I saw the theatrical version twice in the theaters. I've since watched the Ultimate Edition. I do not understand the motivation in Batman versus Superman for Batman to brand the enemies. It doesn't make sense. Why? You know,
the first time he does it in Batman v Superman, the guy is like a pedophile. So the idea is that they even say on the news this guy's going to get murdered in prison.
I don't even think they make mention that he's a pedophile.
Well, I remember that. I remember
he's like a sex trafficker or something.
I remember them saying like having the Bat brand or something is like the bad thing in
brand
prison.
Of death. He's like a sex trafficker or something. The first guy, the guy he does, The first guy we see in the movie is like the second or Batman v Superman is so confusing because they have all this stuff that happens off screen before the movie that they just tell us about.
Yeah.
But so this guy's some sort of he's beyond just a regular criminal. He's some sort of sex criminal, and this is basically Batman's way of like, I'm not going to kill you, but you're going to get killed in prison because I have marked you as a sex criminal with my Bat brand.
I didn't know that's what he was marked for. I just.
Yeah, it's like the worst of the worst.
To be completely honest, I didn't even know what he was chained up for. I don't know what he did.
And wait, wasn't there a guy that was branded in Batman vs Superman that was in Suicide Squad? Wasn't one of the guys like the guy that's in the house when Batman gets shot at by the 2 cops?
No, I don't think so.
I could have sworn I read somewhere that was a guy that was supposed to be in, that he was like an original member of the Suicide Squad.
Oh no, the guy, the like Russian guy in Batman v Superman that's working for Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
They did the weird sort of thing where he's actually a comic book character called KG Beast. And at the start of the Assault on Arkham movie, he's the Slipknot role in Assault on Arkham. He's the guy who says, "No, these bombs aren't real. I'm gonna leave," and then his head gets blown up.
Okay,
And that's how you
enough.
know that Amanda Waller means business. Which that you always have. Every Suicide Squad story has to start that way. There has to be a character who
Makes
says,
sense.
"Why would I stay? This is dumb. You don't really have bombs in our heads." And then they leave, and then they get blown up. And that's how we, as the reader, know they actually do have bombs in their heads.
And just for conversation's sake, while on Batman vs Superman, I feel like we can kind of talk about it all. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
with the DC verse, yeah.
verse.
Literally, we'll talk about
3 movies anyway.
yeah.
Another friend and I were chatting after watching the Ultimate Edition, and there is, as an aside, Patrick is eating Reese's Minis, and he's trying not to let us hear that he's
It would have been
eating
fun if
them.
you didn't say anything.
I spoil things. So anyways, so we're talking about the Russian guy. Now, is it official that he's the KG Beast in Batman v Superman? Because my friend and I have a theory that he's going to end up being Firefly.
No, he's KGB.
He's actually,
He
because he doesn't die at the end of Batman vs Superman, if I recall. He gets blown up, but it doesn't show that he's dead, and he's keen on using a flamethrower. So there's certain hints along the way that would suggest that he could very well be the Firefly.
I mean, KG Beast is a nobody, so they could certainly make him Firefly if they wanted to be. Like they could. I think it's just the name that he has the name of the character that is KG Beast.
Okay,
But
so
but certainly they could make him.
because I get the feeling that after my friend and I discussed it, it seems like Firefly could be a thing, and directly related to Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad. I guess Batman is Ben Affleck is working on a new Batman movie, potentially being in Arkham Asylum.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, it sounds like it's probably going to be some version of. I don't know if you guys have ever read Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Serious Earth. It was. I don't know. That's the big Arkham Asylum one. It's kind of what the Arkham games are based on. It's basically he's just in Arkham Asylum. The story itself, it's not really a story. It's mostly just an artsy book of him meeting all of his villains and kind of interesting takes on them. Like there's this thing in that book where to try and wean Two-Face off of his coin, they keep giving him something with more and more options. So first they give him a dice, so he has 6 options to choose from. And then in the comic, he has a deck of cards, so he has 52 options. And it's basically so he can't make any decisions at all anymore. Like he can't even go to the bathroom because he has so many options to choose from his 52. So it's like a really dark take on that. Certainly, it would make sense. It seems like they would like this Affleck movie to have like award buzz, and certainly like an Affleck directed movie like starring him and Jared Leto. Like if you describe it that way, you could certainly see how it could be. Award consideration.
And if we can talk about Leto, whatever, with Jared.
I've always heard Leto. I do not know which is right.
I've heard Leto.
Regardless, I kind of did a little bit of internet sleuthing and kind of pieced it together myself. The Joker character in Suicide Squad, I very much get the impression that he is the old Robin.
I think that's total bullshit. I'm gonna say that right now.
You
I think that
Wait, like Dick Grayson?
people think he's Jason Todd.
Yeah, a little bit of backstory. There's is it Death in the Family?
Death in the Family.
Joker kidnaps
Yeah, Death
Robin,
of the
being
Family.
Jason Todd, ends
Okay.
up killing him.
Yeah.
And then Jason Todd goes on to be Red Hood. But there are a few hints in both Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad that suggested it could be. I don't know how plausible this is, but the metal teeth that Joker has could specifically point out the one panel / scene in Death in the Family where Jason Todd gets crowbarred in the face. He gets his teeth knocked out, and then also, we're certainly getting onto skeptical territory, but in Batman v Superman, the Robin suit, it's this haha jokes on you Batman, spray painted onto the suit, and it has 2 holes in either shoulder. Joker, if you look at his tattoos, just outside of the tattoos on each shoulder, it looks to me like he has scars, which could be parallel to the holes in the suit. And I know I'm thin ice here, but I thought I'd bring it up. because
I think it was just people didn't like the tattoos and they made up a story so they could pretend that wasn't the real Joker.
Yeah, that seems like a really weird thing to me because, I mean, if Ben Affleck is writing the Batman movie, which he's at least assisting on it, you got to be thinking he's talking to Kevin Smith, who's like the biggest Batman fan of all time.
Well, Affleck himself, he has the Batcave in his house. Like,
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
no slouch
he
himself.
would likely kibosh that like pretty quickly.
That's what I'd always like.
Because
To not only do the Jason Todd story, but to have Jason Todd become the Joker, which has never happened in any version. In Batman Beyond, Tim Drake got like a chip in him that turned him into the Joker. But that's stupid.
Yeah.
They're never going to do that.
No, and I mean to say, like, there's obviously a lot of speculation. I didn't hear about this one at all, but I mean, no one really. There's so many different origins of the Joker, as opposed to the very single one of Batman, that they could, in theory, say that the Joker was like a fifth Robin or whatever that people didn't know about, and then he became bad. I don't know, but that's like that one itself seems really stretched to me because they're taking the biggest, probably most well-known villain in comic book history and throwing his entire backstory that people don't know about into now a well-known hero into the same
Well, basically,
universe.
we'd be saying that the Joker we've met is not the actual Joker, which
Yeah.
is such a weird thing. And it would also be... So here's a couple reasons. I'll just give my little list of why I think this is total bullshit. Number one, they're not going to give the Joker an origin. Like, they're never going to do
No.
that again. That Killing Joke is the closest you'll ever get after 89 to there actually being an origin. Two, it takes Red Hood off the table, and Red Hood is like... People love Red Hood. He's great.
He's better than Nightwing.
Fangirls love Red Hood, so they definitely want to do the Under the Hood storyline, and so it just seems silly to me. Ayer actually, I don't know if you read, he had a little thing explaining his version of what the grill means, and you're like, it's sort of what you're saying, where it is connected to death, in the family. Yeah, so he's saying that after Joker killed Robin, Batman smashed in his teeth, and that's why he has the grill, and then that's also why he wrote damaged on his forehead. Is that he was saying to Batman that you've damaged me. This will probably never actually happen in the movies, but that's what David Ayer said his take on what the grill was. And they've said, I mean, they certainly could end up doing the Joker twist. They've said that isn't the case. To me, it always seemed like a pretty out there fan theory to have Jason end up being the Joker. It seemed like people taking different elements of a lot of different Batman stories and being like, oh, this is what's going to happen.
And yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and like,
I get the negative reactions to the Leto Joker for sure, and I get wanting to explain it, but
and I wasn't bringing this up because I had a negative reaction to him. He kind of missed his mark. I didn't much care for him, but I wouldn't go out of my way to say that I didn't like him. I just I felt that, well, you know, to be completely honest, in a Batman movie where the Joker isn't the main villain is kind of a bummer for me because I love the animosity, but also the camaraderie between Batman and Joker. I think that's such an excellent character arc that they both have, and yeah, I don't know. The Joker in Suicide Squad, he wasn't in it enough.
he didn't have enough to do. I would agree with that.
It's just kind of a bummer. And the Jason Todd thing, I just wanted to bring it up as an aside. I don't think it's impossible because, I mean, they have so much, they have such a large wealth of story to pull from. Would it piss off fans? It might. You know, it might be cool too. I don't know. But I thought I'd bring it up anyways, just for conversation's sake.
I like Leto's Joker. He didn't get enough to do, but I love when they kind of go into Harley's backstory. I really liked all those scenes. I really love the scene where he's like, he kind of tricks her into jumping in, and then it seems like he's gonna walk away. And then he does that. That's probably my favorite moment in the movie, where he kind of does like a growl, rips off his jacket, and jumps after her. I kind of liked how they did that, where it's like he isn't necessarily in love with her, but he's obsessed with her in a way. Like he lusts after her. They really make a point of saying that he's just very attracted to her, like in a pretty real sense.
Well, in my internet reading, one of the things that was brought up directly tied to the car chase scene where Harley ends up underwater. Both of the scenes were supposed to initially play up how little Joker actually cared for her. He was obsessed for her, but he didn't care for her. So that's what he made her jump, and then he did walk away.
Okay, this is probably a good transition to go into. They've sort of pretty much said what the deleted scenes are with stuff that really got cut. like you were saying, there's a lot cut out of Joker, and specifically with him being abusive towards Harley.
Yes.
That was a lot of that was cut out, and then the sequence with June Moon, who the woman who will become the Enchantress, they do kind of a flashback in the cut we saw where we just sort of quickly see shots of her, like finding the statue. Apparently, that was originally the intro to the movie. It was kind of like a prologue. And it's much like a 10-minute scene or something, where it's her and she has like these two guides and they're going up the mountain, and it's like kind of more spooky, and that was originally how the movie opened. And then I think that was probably the point, like at the start of the movie, like the first third felt very chopped up to me, where they really were like just moving things around, we start with Deadshot and Harley, and then we go to Viola Davis, and she gives a little speech that feels like that should have been the start of the movie. She has a really good line where she's like, Superman flew into the sky and the world changed, and then he didn't, and the world changed again. That was pretty good. I like that thought that Superman being there and then being gone, had this real ramification that he died. It made Batman v Superman feel important in retrospect. But then, so we do Deadshot and Harley, and then we go back to another, like they go through all the squad members, and we see Deadshot and Harley again. So that to me just felt weird. And then obviously watching the movie, you could tell that the June Moon sequence and there's the sequence with Common, with Joker and Harley, where it's even shot with kind of a weird filter, where it's like got this weird purple haze around it, and to go all into the behind the scenes stuff. So the story here is, so the first Suicide Squad trailer came out, the Queen one, right? It's got all the songs and the jokes, and people really like that trailer. Warner Brothers starts shitting their pants because the movie is nothing like that trailer. David Ayer's cut doesn't have any of the songs. The quote that they kept using was that all of the jokes were in that trailer, basically, that there weren't really that many jokes in the movie. So WB, they do all these reshoots, apparently add a lot of humor. David Ayer says they also added an action scene, who knows. And then not only that, they go to the company that did that original trailer, and they get them to do another cut of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They have David Ayer's cut, which is the darker cut that apparently has more of the Joker Harley abuse stuff and the June Moon sequence.
And also, Captain Boomerang was a largely defined character. He still fancied the Japanese sword lady, but he was particularly racist and sexist.
They cut some of his stuff out, which that's his character in the comics, and you get a little bit of that in the movie, but they don't do too much. And apparently there was a lot with Croc cut as well, where he had some jokes about vomit, and there were a lot of Croc jokes that got cut. Well, he was more of a comic relief character. So they aired both cuts. They had the Ayer cut and this Trailer House cut, and then they, I guess, kind of merged the two of them into what the movie we saw. Which my understanding is that basically the Trailer House cut with some of the character moments from Ayer's cut. But to go to your earlier point about all of the songs, I would think that's where there's so many songs in the movie, is because it feels like a trailer at certain points, like where the Eminem song comes on, and then there's the Kanye West song, and they just don't fit the scene at all. And then I'll wrap this up because this is kind of long, but the part that seemed very weird to me in terms of music was that there would be like regular songs, like pop songs, in regular scenes, but then action scenes would have score. Like, it seemed very strange to me that the action scenes didn't have like pop songs. That seems like that would be the one where you'd want like the up-tempo music. Mm-hmm. But I guess they just already scored those parts for Ayer's cut, and they didn't want to waste those songs. I just don't know. It was very strange. Anyways, I feel like that explains the movie a lot when I read that afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely it does. It shows there's definitely like choppy parts throughout the movie, and having it be mashed together makes a lot of sense. Because, admittedly, I missed the first 5 or 6 minutes of this movie because I was caught in traffic. But that happens.
Yeah, they basically just reiterate things over and over again. I didn't miss too much.
Yeah, I missed the original storyline. I walked into the storyline of Captain Boomerang going to jail, but I missed like the 3 prior type things.
Did you see Flashy?
I did.
That was a fun cameo. I had that ruined for me, and I wish I hadn't. That would have been fun if I didn't know he was going to be in it.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I saw Flash. I was like, oh fuck, that's super cool.
That was neat. I feel like we should have a little scene of them fighting, like
something.
We just saw him get caught really quick, is what it seemed like, and then she faced a meta-human and survived, and it's like, well, Flash wasn't going to kill him. Like,
no.
As far as I know, we barely know Flash in these movies, but it doesn't seem like a murderer.
Yeah. So they're like, it explains a whole bunch, because the music in the movie was so off-putting And while there's comedy, and that, like every character is going to have like a little bit of a comedic tone at some point in time, except for I assume Deadshot in the comics is probably pretty cut and
He's
dry.
like sarcastic. I feel like they had a good, like he's the guy who doesn't give a fuck. He's too cool for school, basically. Is what it is.
That's fair.
I don't know. They have this fun thing in the comics where he really wants the approval of Rick Flag. He wants Rick to be like, we're the same, like we're soldiers, and Rick's like, you're a fucking scumbag. Like I hate you. They didn't really. They kind of did the opposite, where Rick really wanted Deadshot to be his friend, and then that was a weird bit where they hug at the end. He's like, I'm not a hugger. That felt like a reshoot to me.
Yeah,
Didn't feel like Rick Flag.
No. So, like, I don't. That's what I was saying when I think it was like Batman vs Superman and Guardians of the Galaxy mashed together, because the reshoots of the trailer reshoot. Now that I'm picking it up, and then the Batman v Superman being the darker one, it makes a lot of sense, and how it couldn't hit both.
It can't exactly. It's two movies shoved together to be one movie. It just is never going to be one complete movie.
Yeah, and that like there's a lot of issues with that. And I mean, it worked for some people and didn't work for others. Like obviously, it's been successful. Like it's made, you said 800 million or 500 million.
It's
or something like
500 million now. I can pull the actual numbers out here, but yeah, it's about just under 500 million on about a $150 million budget.
Yeah, so it's
And so probably like
wildly successful.
600 million total.
By the end of it, yeah. And I mean, there's not even any competition for it right now.
Yeah, that's what Sausage Party. We're in the second week now, just to date us here. That the Sausage Party did not beat it for number one. Sausage Party did better than people thought it was going to, and Suicide Squad's kind of underperforming, but Suicide Squad was still number one. And I can see it because I looked, because I like to be invested in the DC stuff. I want to know I want them to make money even if they're bad. I want there to be later good movies. I mean, at this point it might be good to just. I don't actually think Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad are so bad as to be like franchise killers. I think Man of Steel maybe was. I don't like Man of Steel at all.
I was not a big
Some people
fan
will
of
defend that movie, but I kind of think it's like Attack of the Clones level pacing. Like it's really bad.
Not a great movie.
It is. Snyder has some visuals. I think that's why he kept the job. Is he's got some good superhero visuals.
Pictures, yeah. So I mean, we can probably easily get into spoilers now. We've already
we can just go all into it now.
On the Joker topic.
Well, just before we jump into the spoilers, I would just like to say pacing-wise, because I think we've dealt with the pacing a lot. I actually didn't mind the hopping around, as you guys say, for the first little bit. I thought that rather than having origin stories of each character, like in all the superhero movies these days, you get 10, 15, 20 minutes of origin per character, it seems like. Where with this one, I felt like it might not have been an active choice, but I felt like it was. Where rather than just spend time with, we're going to have 10 minutes of Harley Quinn and Deadshot and whatever, they hopped around, I thought, to make it interesting pacing-wise, so that it broke it away from the stereotypical origin.
Yeah, I like that we didn't really. I like that they did a much better job of populating their universe than I feel like Marvel has in however many. Like we already have more villains running around in the DC universe than there are in Marvel, because they just kill all their villains in Marvel. So
well, that's the thing. I mean these there's 7 at the beginning of the movie. Whiplash or Whipshot or whatever the hell his name is. He dies.
Slipknot.
Slipknot. Sorry, but
how dare you not remember Slipknot's name? This A-lister.
But we have 6 villains who seem to survive. We'll talk about Diablo in a minute. But we have 6 villains that the entire universe can now pick from, and Enchantress doesn't necessarily have to be dead. They can certainly bring her back.
Oh yeah, she'll be fine.
She existed without a heart for 6,000 years, so they squish her heart, so now she can get revenge or whatever. But
will be fine too.
Yeah.
But we've got such a lush and colorful palette to work with, as opposed to every single Marvel movie. Let's have the bad guy be woefully underwhelming, woefully under.
He's a business guy and he's got some sort of powers.
Totally, yeah. And then let's kill him at the end.
I agree. I like that they were just like, here's this guy, here's his thing, moving on.
Yep.
Here's this guy, here's his thing, moving on.
And I think we spoke about it at the beginning of the Ghostbusters podcast, but where DC doesn't spend a lot of time with backstory, because we talked about the Bruce Wayne the family getting murdered, because that's all I ever talk about. But they didn't need to spend. Sorry, whether they needed to or not, they didn't give the audience the opportunity to grow with the characters. They said, these guys already exist. We're going to give you just a brief update on what's going on, and now we're in.
Like rap sheets.
Totally, and I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, it was fun to see Boomerang was just in Central City and he'd run into the Flash, you know.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little more. Like, I would have liked if, like, Floyd and Harley and Croc all kind of knew each other, because they were... I mean, it seemed like Harley and Floyd sort of knew... Like, Deadshot sort of knew each other. Floyd Lawton. I guess I shouldn't just... I'm so bad, because I just use the characters' first names, because that's often how it's easy to refer to them. But,
and also, I get the feeling that Harley and Croc have an unspoken...
I would have liked more of that if they kind of talked about Batman, you know.
Yeah, but they clearly know each other. They've run into each other in the past, and while it seems like there's other members having issue with Croc at certain points, Harley never does.
Yeah.
And at one point, I believe it was in the bar scene, she actually defends him.
No, she calls him ugly, and he says he's beautiful, and she says, yeah, you are.
Apparently
that's not really...
That was also apparently a running joke. The beautiful line was supposed to be like a payoff.
Oh. Okay,
I didn't see this Ayer cut.
That's like the Toad thing that happened in X-Men, where
exactly. Yeah. It's funny to hear Whedon describe that, where he's like, I didn't tell her to say it that way. Same thing that happens to everything else.
I won't disagree. Like, I really enjoyed. It was like a super awesome breath of fresh air to not have, backstories of characters that we probably should have had backstories for.
I probably could have used a little more for Katana, you know? Like, I know Katana, but they didn't really give her much to do.
No, that's so great. How great is it that they said, if you don't know, ask one of your nerdy friends and hopefully they'll fill you in. How cool is that?
I'm not against it, but for people, like, I was saying earlier, or thinking earlier, I don't really recall, that people would have gone to see Suicide Squad. They could easily have just not known it was a comic. Like, they could have said, oh, I've heard of Harley Quinn. This is a movie that has action, and she's kind of hot, so I'm going to go see it.
Yeah, outside of Harley, she was the only thing. And Joker, I guess. Like, having a new on-screen Joker is always going to be somewhat of a...
Yeah. But, I mean, like, if they didn't say any of the names of the characters, people would have just been like, oh, it's a generic action movie with a chick that's, like, naked throughout the entire thing. I'm going to go see this. So for people that don't have that friend that reads comics, I'd like to think most people have friends that read comics at one point in their lives type thing, but it would have been at least a little nice to say earlier in the movie, like, Deadshot doesn't miss, and, like, here's why, or, like, what happened to Killer Croc.
But I think
they could slight more detail.
They could touch on that at any time. They haven't done away with the opportunity to provide backstory, but I thought they did a good job of, for me, anyways, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but they drew me into the characters that I already kind of knew, and if all of a sudden Deadshot or Harley Quinn, if they were in another movie and you got another glimpse of their backstory, they're only doing the job better to draw me in more. Yeah. They don't have to show all the cards right away.
Oh, and that's fine. That's also assuming that they'll be in other movies, which I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that it's going to happen, but it could easily happen at any point in time where they could say, we didn't really like Captain Boomerang, not in any more movies. Or, like, Killer Croc didn't really, hit home for us, we're just going to push him to the wayside, and now people are going to be like, oh, what happened to this guy? Like, I don't understand what happened. Like, they did really focus only on the two of Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
For sure, they get the most focus.
Yeah.
I thought the emotional payoff of Diablo.
Yeah, Diablo gets a lot of focus too. Yeah.
Only at like the last quarter of the movie.
The whole way through, he doesn't want to use his power, because everyone else is doing the job except for him. I thought that made him more of a focal point than even Deadshot or Harley Quinn.
But
why is this guy not doing it?
He wasn't a focal point until the very end. Like, I mean, it was seen where, like, Captain Boomerang, who realistically also does nothing in one of the fight scenes, is like, hey bro, you didn't do anything, and Jay Hernandez, who plays Diablo, was like, I won't do it. And then they just kind of moved on. If there was, like, a kind of a piling on thing of, like, hey man, we're all going to die if you don't fucking help, it probably would have been better if he still stood his ground to all of them.
I'm going to disagree there. I thought that the eventual build-up to Will Smith confronting him, I think Deadshot voiced for the entire team the absolute need for him to do what he was there to do.
And I won't necessarily disagree with that either, but it was more... I was... for me, they shouldn't have been a team. They were immediately, like, put in, like, boom, we're all bros now, let's fucking
That's
do
right.
this.
At
And
the
Will
end,
Smith is the leader.
We didn't really have the moment where we saw why they were family. Like, he calls them family at the end.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess...
Yeah.
I agree. I felt like the ending wasn't really earned, and I feel like maybe it's so hard to talk about this movie because it's like, what was it originally?
Yeah.
What was Ayer's cut?
I want to see the dark version.
And they've said they're not doing the Ultimate Edition, but I feel like even if they don't do one now, we'll get a Joker cut in 5 years.
Probably.
Like, just because there's so much Joker stuff, I feel like they're going to have to show them.
So it wasn't, while that scene was awesome, and, I mean, realistically, I didn't like the CGI of his flames. I thought they looked awful. But it was super good, except for the fact that why would Cat Boomerang, Killer Croc, Harley Quinn, all of these people be like, no man, it's cool, like we'll just let Will Smith, the leader of the gang, talk to you about it, when Captain Boomerang seems like he's kind of a fucking prick. Harley Quinn's a psychopath. Killer Croc is literally a crocodile human being. Why would they not be like, dude, this is fucking ridiculous, I will eat you.
Boomerang is calling him out.
But not really. He calls him out and he's like, I don't do that, man. And then they walk away, and that's it.
But then they give the explanation for why, and maybe they knew it before they didn't. But I think putting any effort into focusing on that, I don't think it really matters because a few of them were ready to leave before. How come nobody called out Boomerang for wanting to leave?
That was the weirdest thing in the movie that they didn't explain why Boomerang came back.
Yeah.
Why did they give us? I heard a good joke online that makes me hate it a little less. Where it's like, why did he come back? Because he's Boomerang.
Yeah, that makes
there
sense.
you go. But it's so stupid. Why? That was one of my favorite parts in the movie where Flag just comes in and he's like, you can go if you want. And then Boomerang just leaves. Like,
and he fucking cheeses.
That's such a Captain Boomerang moment. But what they needed to complete the joke was a moment where he tries to leave and almost gets killed and realizes that he's a coward and the only way he's going to survive is if he... That's what we needed. That was my problem, because they did such a good version of Boomerang, it's just they didn't give him anything to do.
They could have had even one, like even a little funny thing there where he, tries to open the door and the door's locked, he's like, shit, I can only go with you guys. Like, something just,
I would have loved that, yeah.
That would have been just,
so easy, yeah.
Would have been great.
And I have to talk about Boomerang for a sec.
Oh,
I feel like...
Let's wait, because I will talk about him for the entire movie.
Okay.
I love Boomerang.
Okay, put a pin in Boomerang.
So, I mean,
I just... back to Diablo for a sec. I don't necessarily know that he's going to be dead. They might bring him back.
He'll come back, yeah.
The reason being is that he is super fire guy, and they use a bomb to blow up the bad guy. He's a fire guy.
He's also, apparently a demon.
So that seems a little curious to me that they chose him to be the one who seemingly dies. He's the... Well, he
could also have died in physical form. Like, the demon would have survived, but Jay Hernandez would have died, and he could easily envelop someone else.
I'm not super familiar with El Diablo. He's from the new 52 Suicide Squad. He was created for that version. But apparently, dying and coming back to life is part of his power set.
Okay, so there you go.
He'll probably be back.
I
haven't read it, but I read online that this is something El Diablo does. He dies and comes back.
And I know you guys were talking about the family aspect of it. Diablo is very important because he was the Coulson of the team. If we can harken back to Avengers, he brought the team together, and he didn't. You're talking about them busting his balls for not doing what he's there for. He eventually does it to bring the team together.
Oh yeah,
I think. Focusing any effort on busting his balls for there's enough problems with everybody in the team that you could have a whole movie of them sitting around bitching at each other, and I don't think it was necessary.
I won't disagree with that in the slightest. I was merely saying that he didn't become realistically the most important part of the team until 3/4 of the way through the movie. For whatever reasons, they discussed his backstory briefly, but until he goes full kills people with fire, and then explains that his family died and everything that happened, you're just kind of like, okay, he's a fucking useless guy. Alright, whatever.
And the kids, to quote Boomerang, the kids. So good.
And that scene was awesome to me. I would have looked at it they're clearly fucking dead guys.
That's what I love.
The house was on fire. They burned to death.
All awards to Jack Corden. Yeah, he totally sells it. He's just so into this story.
What
about the kids?
I fucking loved that scene.
Well, Well, I think because we do get the backstory, again, not fully, but we get a little bit of Harley's history, Croc.
We definitely get the most of Harley.
And we get the least of Diablo.
Yeah.
And I think that juxtaposes him to the rest of the characters. I am more interested in him because I know nothing about his motivation, which is super exciting to me.
Yeah, again, I'm not disputing that. I'm saying, like Zach and I were saying, that Will Smith and Margot Robbie are the focuses of the movie until he becomes the focus of the movie.
Yeah.
I would say until the bar scene.
They're like 90%
obviously he has
of the
kind of
movie.
an arc, and like you're saying at the start of the movie, he's the one who doesn't really want to be on the team. And I really liked just the how his fire, he can actually make images with the fire. That was very comic booky. Like when he says goodbye, and he makes like the demon, and he has the little woman in the cup. Like that was just like. That's a fun artsy move for them to do, and it's not like there's never been a Marvel movie where someone had that much control over their element,
No,
it was magical. Like it seemed like magic as opposed to just fire, like
Absolutely,
as opposed to just being like a science. It was kind of fun. It was a different take on a pretty boring power. Like fire is a boring power.
Yeah, kind of.
But
so yeah, like I'm not saying that he wasn't important. I'm just saying that the movie focused on those two characters more than anyone else.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get across the point that despite the movie knowingly focusing on Deadshot and Harley, I was as interested in Diablo because they put in such effort for you to know nothing about him. Yeah. And I thought that was a really exciting choice.
Yeah, and I mean, at that point in time, we can take that pin out and discuss my favorite character in the movie.
Oh
was
my
Captain
God.
Boomerang.
Boomerang.
He had a beer in his hand in every fucking scene in this goddamn movie.
My only issue with him is they didn't do it more. I thought that he could, and it doesn't matter where he gets the beers from.
I was hoping that he was just going to be like, beer? Anything.
Absolutely. I thought they could have played it up more.
Even in the scene where Boomerang always comes back or whatever, he could have been like, oh, I needed some beer to get through this. So he gets pulls out like a 6-pack or something. They could have done anything with that.
That would have been the best if he had just stuffed a bunch of beers and behind Croc or something, so Croc had all his beer. That would be great.
It would have been outstanding.
And there's a scene. There's a running joke throughout the movie that Boomerang is very attached to pink unicorns. And there's a scene where Boomerang gets stabbed with something, and it ends up having stabbed or shot a wad of money. I thought it would have been better for the unicorn, because he carries around the stuffed unicorn, to get impaled, and then you find out that there's a beer inside of it.
Oh, that would have been good.
Again, tying in the beer thing. So, he pulls out the unicorn, and it is beer soaked, and it's got whatever the object, I don't remember what it is, but it's impaled the unicorn. So now he's lost the beer, and he's lost the unicorn.
I thought it was weird we didn't see his fantasy at the end when Enchantress was showing everyone.
I assume they were probably saying it would have been darker.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to see him on a beach with Enchantress and Katana and Harley,
unicorn or
and then the giant CG unicorn sitting next to him, and then they fist bump, and
that would have been awesome.
They're just watching the girls play volleyball. That would have been super funny.
That would have been
seemed like that was why didn't we see everyone's?
Yeah.
It would have been fun to see what Croc wanted.
It would have been too long. Yeah. I don't even know what Croc would have.
He would have just liked a sewer.
Yeah.
You know what would have been funny for Croc? To show him in the prison cell watching BET. That's his fantasy, and then it's actually realized completely.
That was one of the funnier moments of the movie. Was he actually had the TV at the end? I enjoyed that quite a bit.
And they gave him black entertainment television.
Yeah,
because that's his request.
With Jai Courtney, I just thought his character was they missed he hit every mark that they wanted him to hit, but they didn't give him enough marks at all. I thought he was funny. He was the only one that looked like a piece of garbage. If I looked at him in real life, I'd be like, oh, he's a criminal. Absolutely, no big deal.
We needed the moment where we saw that Boomerang could handle himself. We never got the moment where, because that's what he is. Boomerang is a cockroach. He's a complete scumbag. Yeah. But he's really tough to kill, and he has no problems killing people.
Yeah.
And he's good at it. That's what you need to do. You never really get the moment where, we needed, one of my favorite moments in the movie was where Deadshot was just, walking down the street, just, fucking destroying all the I don't know, crackle heads. I don't even know what you call them.
Well, I assume they were voodoo zombies.
Yeah,
voodoo incarnations.
The zombies, whatever. When he's just I also liked when he had the target practice, where he's just inhumanly good with the gun.
Yeah.
He's
how
beyond
cool of a scene was that?
I love
the scene where he was walking down shooting everyone. Yeah. He's That's why I'm on fucking.
And then he
TV."
gets
I was like,
he gets up on the the car and he's using the wrist shooters, which is like so classic Deadshot.
Yeah.
That was great. That was the best moment in the movie, I would say.
I had zero issue with the amount of time that they gave to say Boomerang or Croc, whatever, because here we are, a movie that has 6 bad guys, the bad guy boss. We have the actual antagonist in the movie, her brother, and we've got Rick Flag. We have 10 characters who all have to share the screen, and I felt that not a single one of them was underplayed. Not to say that they couldn't have had more time, but I thought they developed all of them well enough that it moved the story along, and it kept me interested in all of them.
I don't think Boomerang got developed at all.
I don't think Katana should have been in the movie.
Katana would be
She
my...
shouldn't have been in the movie. She did.
I liked her. I like that character. I think they gave her probably the best outfit of anyone.
She looks exactly like fucking comics.
Her outfit's great. They gave her nothing to do.
Yeah, she was just like a
But
generic.
I think they had to cut out scenes with her
Probably.
and Boomerang,
Yeah.
and I assume
That
more
makes
of her
sense why
backstory.
they kind of are both the
where
least
he just
developed. 'cause-
keeps hitting on her.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's particularly racist and sexist while he does it, apparently, despite having a crush on her the whole time.
I can see that. I think that they were both underdeveloped solely for the fact that they didn't give the backstory that the comic would give. They was just like, you're supposed to know who this character is. That's all we're going to give you. They don't build either one of those characters in the least.
Katana's all exposition too. At least with Boomerang, we saw him robbing. With Katana, we're just told things.
She
Rick
shows
Flag
up on a fucking plane.
Yeah, he's like, her husband died, and he's trapped in that sword, and
Yeah,
her
and she'll kill you.
sword sucks souls, which we never see, and doesn't have any effect in the movie. I love that they went with the magic sword, but it's just save it for the next one, guys.
Well, that's I think that's what plays to the you have to speak to your friend who reads comic books vibe that they're going for. Yeah, we don't get the backstory, but we might. But even though we don't,
I know
know
that
that
any characters, those two would probably get the pass over for the next movies.
certainly it could, but here's this Japanese lady and she's got a sword that sucks souls. I want to know more about her. I'm gonna follow her. I think they gave the absolute bare minimum in a successful way to me.
I didn't even for Boomerang specifically, considering that he was one of like the main 5 or whatever. I know nothing about him other than he's Australian, likes unicorns, and always is drinking.
Him, Deadshot, and Waller, I would say, are the 3 characters you need to have in any Suicide Squad adaptation, and they definitely gave him the least to do of the 3 of them.
Yeah, and that that's the movie again, as we said, is a success. I'm not worried about that in the least, but they could have easily taken away a little bit from Harley Quinn and from Deadshot and just thrown a little bit at him.
I think
Just
he
like a
needed,
little
like
bit.
I said, I think he needed an action scene. We needed to see why he was on the team.
Yeah, and
we
even,
never
like,
really got that.
2 minutes.
I would have liked 30 seconds of him fighting the Flash and kind of holding his own.
Yeah.
That would have been enough. I
That
would have been
would've
into
been
it.
Anything. Even if he had a scene like throw the boomerang and it like hits him in the chest and falls to the ground.
But I guess
Something.
to say my complaint is I wanted to see more. That's the positive. I
Yeah.
suppose that I liked the character and I wanted to see more of him.
I guess the Flash scene was added in very late in the game.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, they decided last minute to just throw it in.
Yeah, that was another thing I had read is that they added a lot of references to the larger. I would imagine we'll just go full spoiler at this point. I'll say the post-credit scene with. Or the mid-credit scene with Bruce Wayne and Amanda Waller. I would imagine that was probably added.
Probably.
Which was kind of I would expect it to get more, although it did sort of. There's been a lot of rumors that they eventually want to do a Justice League versus Suicide Squad movie, and that the post-credit scenes certainly seem to be implying that with Bruce saying shut it down or my friends will shut it down with you, which I thought was weird because he was like. The conversation started with, I'm going to go make friends. And it's so what friends are going to... You haven't made any friends yet, Bruce.
Yeah.
You're saying the Justice League that is going to exist after this conversation?
his best friend, dead Superman.
Yeah.
can
And
help him.
that's what the file was more information on the good medical.
No, I know. It just seemed like
Yeah.
you're kind of...
So
writing checks you can't cash yet. You don't know if Aquaman's actually going to be your friend yet, but...
and
it was
after
just
watching the fan-made trailer for the movie, I'm inclined to believe that Aquaman will not be his friend until the very end of the movie.
Have you seen the joke that because Aquaman's dad is also named Thomas, so they can do the Martha thing, but
Oh
reverse.
my god.
That's going to be
amazing.
Bruce's way of getting out
I
of
fucking hope
Thomas.
so.
What did you say?
What do you say about that name? Oh my god.
Why do you say that name?
Holy
Why'd you
shit.
say it?
Holy shit.
I will
hope
say,
that happens.
blew my mind that I had never realized that Clark and Bruce's moms have the same name. I don't know how that slipped by me for so many years that their moms both named Martha. But
now, would you say that is a detractor to Batman versus Superman?
No, I think people made too much of a deal out of that. I thought it was sort of clever, honestly.
Because I'm absolutely on board with you in that I sure shit never put the two together.
That's why
but it's such a thing though.
It was sort of like, I when I saw it the first time, it made me be like, that was clever that you did that. Like,
yeah,
it was fun that you did that. I can't believe I never put together that their moms have the same name before. And it was a nice, like, I don't know. I mean, Batman v Superman always has its problems, but I would consider myself a defender of it, and I think it's a nice way of showing that Clark is human, right? Like, Bruce wasn't thinking of Clark as a human; he was thinking of him as
like holy shit, you have a
like
mom.
an alien. It's like, oh yeah, you have a mom.
Yeah. I would really hope that would happen. So yeah, I mean the mid credits sequence it kind of fell short. I mean it wasn't the semi hilarity of the shawarma, but it wasn't any of the
it wasn't
ones
Thanos. Like that was the great one at the end of Avengers 1.
Yeah. And it wasn't, I wasn't upset with it in the slightest. It didn't really do anything other than set up for a movie that I already knew that was happening.
Exactly. It's like, oh, Justice League's happening. Yeah, you already showed us the trailer.
Yeah.
And if they gave more, I think it would have detracted from the Suicide Squad being what it was.
Yeah, I know they kind of doubled it. Instead of it just being DC, it's also like, oh, this is the Suicide Squad continuing as well.
Exactly. So I'm gonna defend it. I think it hit not just the end scene, but just the post credit scene. But I think the movie in general, I was genuinely excited the whole way through, and I'm the first to admit, Patrick can attest to this. Up to the movie, I was super bummed that Will Smith was going to be in it, because I don't know, he's Will Smith in everything.
Yeah, dude, you like fucking Steven Seagal.
In the cheesiest way possible, though.
That's a win in my books.
Fair enough. But I want to go on record saying that he was the highlight of the movie for me.
He was great. He was really good.
The emotional motivation of his daughter was so well done.
I like that
I don't know of anybody else off the top of my head who could have pulled off the action the way that he did, but also the kind of sweet, sentimental, and the scene between him and Batman was excellent.
Love that.
Excellent scene.
Missed that scene.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, that's probably the one. And there's some good Harley stuff too. But.
Basically, Deadshot is walking down the street with his daughter. Batman shows up to arrest him. Deadshot goes to kill Batman, and the daughter gets in the way and says, "Dad, don't. You're better than this." And Deadshot puts down his weapons and says, "You're right," and then he gets arrested.
Fuck that! Shoot the kid too. This is a chance to kill Batman.
That's why, yeah.
Fucking super
at the end when he has his fantasy about killing Batman, we're going back to that same scene, and this time the daughter just didn't get in the way, and that's why.
I understand.
That's where we're learning.
That gives a lot more payoff at that end scene. I was like, man, this kid is a psycho.
Yeah.
Shit, she's just talking about killing people.
Do it, Dad.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Harley? I know you're not a Margot Robbie fan.
I'm not a huge fan.
I like her. I haven't seen Focus, but I want to watch it now because I thought they played off each other very nicely.
I thought I was super hyped for Focus, and then it came out and it was out of the theaters, and I was like, oh yeah, they made that movie. Like, shit, I completely forgot about it.
It wasn't great.
All I heard about it was the two of them are good together. I heard the movie itself, not so good.
I can see that.
Not so good.
I had no problem with Harley. I mean, physically, she's obviously a very beautiful woman. Even looking like a psychopath, I thought she looked good. As like a complete personal thing, too skinny. Like if I could see ribs, not a thing that I enjoy. But I know that she's skinny in the comics, and I get that.
She's a gymnast too. I think they sort of supposed to be the explanation.
Yeah. I thought she was fine. Her weird Brooklyn Boston accent confused the shit out of me.
I gotta watch it again. It seems like she
and not using
kind of slipped. I mean, I guess maybe the idea is that that's like her Harley voice, right? Like she doesn't talk like that when she's Dr. Quinzel at the start. So maybe like she's doing something for it. She's doing like a performance for the Joker.
Maybe, I'm not sure. Like all I wanted her to do was say "Chowda."
Chowda.
It didn't happen.
Chowda.
But it was like, and it wasn't even that the voice bothered me. It was that it was inconsistent. She was like, and if that's what it was, if she was doing,
I had a couple where it seemed like at the end. There were moments where she was doing like the cartoon Harley Quinn voice, where it was so over the top,
but,
and then sometimes she wasn't really.
Yeah, that was just confusing to me. If that's a reason why, then I had no reason.
I would say, I mean, I'd have to watch it again. It seemed like sometimes she was performing more, right? Like that's sort of Harley's persona as well.
I would say that it was the performance, because the pivotal scene of hers that really got to me, I thought was really good, was when she thought Joker was dead. She put on the face and was still happy, bubbly Harley to the rest of the team, but she was broken.
When she's sitting on the car.
Yeah, she was like she's just taken off her necklace and she thrown it away. What did it say, princess?
Puddin', I believe.
Puddin. Yeah, she is broken inside, but she puts on the mask again to be bubbly with the team, and I think that more than explains away the inconsistency in the voice, because it is very well a performance, because she is still Quinzel, but then she's also Looney Tunes madly obsessed in love with this Joker guy.
Yeah, I know. I truthfully never even thought of it that way. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, and it makes me dislike it less. But just like the switching in and out, like, did kind of throw me out every now and again.
I think some explanation of Harley got cut out as well, like of her
guaranteed.
psyche. That seems like, I mean, we got definitely elements of it, like Joker leaving her in the car, like that seems to be implying that he definitely cares more about himself.
Yeah, and one of the deleted scenes, they focus more on that, in that he is actively making the decision to leave her in the car. It's not just like, because I thought in this cut he's just running away from Batman. It's less about him ditching her, more about shit, I gotta get away from the Bat.
I'm confused how he swims away so fast. Like, he just crashed a fucking car into the water, and Batman's in the water with him. He's just fucking gone.
Can we talk about I want to make a point that them putting in the Ace chemicals was super cool. I thought that was an excellent reference as far as Batman goes. But did they fall in paint?
It's like supposed to be acid. I was gonna say it didn't occur to me watching it because I know my Bat mythos a lot. I know that Joker falls into that, but they didn't really explain that in the movie. Like,
not at all.
If you didn't know already, like, you probably know that Joker fell in acid. You probably don't know that it was Ace Chemical specifically, and you don't really understand the significance. It would be so weird to just watch this scene in the movie, and Harley doesn't even really have powers in the movie, and it kind of looks like she's wearing makeup, so. And she's not. She's obviously supposed to be like pale, but
yeah. Like we've got like a swamp water looking thing where you put like Coke and orange and root beer and stuff into it, and then when they fall in it, then colors show up.
What's probably the colors like are their clothes?
Yeah, like the melting away of the clothes. And stuff.
Okay. It's like she's wearing like a red. It's red and blue.
You are absolutely right.
Someone else pointed that out to me, and it was actually clever because that's where she gets her like color scheme is from the two colors of their clothes that fall in. That's where the red and the blue are from.
Makes sense.
Okay.
That scene was fine with me. I was a little confused as to how it would have the exact same effect on her that it did on him.
I don't think he thought it would. I think he's trying to trick her into killing her.
I thought she was going to die, but like that was just a me thing where I was like, would she end up like coming out the exact same?
I think she would have died if he hadn't gone in for her.
Probably.
Yeah, and in the deleted scene, he's just goading her to jump just to see how into him she is.
Yeah,
he kind of in the movie. That was how I interpreted it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. But it's just weird that it had the exact same effect on two completely separate human beings, and how him jumping in the second time had zero effect on him.
I will say I don't think it made her crazy.
What is the effect?
I assume the paling of the skin.
It bleaches his skin and the hair, and then like Joker usually has this he's sort of immune to toxins usually. Okay. And then for a long time in the comics, Harley sort of has slightly enhanced strength. They don't really do that anymore. So she's basically just supposed to be a regular girl, she's like an Olympic level gymnast, and obviously has hand-to-hand combat training, but. Yeah, so basically the acid just bleaches their skin. It doesn't really, even in the context of the Joker, it's not really supposed to have driven him crazy. Like, it's kind of the whole bad day is what made him crazy.
Yeah. So then that'll throw me to all of the Harley Quinn scenes where it does look like she's wearing white makeup on her face.
I think she's
but
also-
the rest of her's normal.
She's also like applying makeup because it should have bleached her. That was my
Yeah, that's yeah.
They're definitely going with Joker is bleached in this version. They're not doing the Heath Ledger. He's wearing makeup and has scars.
Mhm.
They're doing he is bleached and he looks like this 24/7.
So then, hypothetically, we could read into the scene that because Joker got Harley Quinn out as quick as he did, maybe the skin isn't bleached.
I think she's still a little bleached. I don't know. I guess I'd have to watch the prison scenes again, but it seems like she's still pretty
I think
pale.
I think she was a little bit whiter.
She obviously like applies makeup on top.
Yeah, and she's clearly wearing lipstick the entire time.
yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, I'm not really sure.
She's at least she's got some white. It's not great. She certainly isn't as white as the Joker is.
No, and I'm sure like a throw to the them being crazy. I'm sure falling into a vat of acid probably messes with you a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
Like it didn't drive either one of them to be as crazy as they were, but it probably.
So I will interject for a sec here. I'm just looking on the old Google machine, and it does very much look like she is bleached. That is my mistake. She looks pale, if not white.
The new 52 origin of Harley is she's bleached.
Okay.
They used to do she was makeup, and now she's bleached.
Yeah, because I remember in the cartoon she was definitely makeup.
She was makeup, yeah. In the cartoon, she's just a henchwoman, basically.
Yeah. But I liked her. I mean, we discussed the Joker a long time ago. My opinion of the Joker was I had no problem with the role that he was given, but he wasn't given enough, and they didn't do things with him. I think the role that they wrote was kind of like Cesar Romero, Heath Ledger, and Jack Nicholson all at once.
Yeah, he kind of said so. In Grant Morrison's Joker, he described it in his Batman run. Described it as David Bowie's Thin White Duke persona,
Okay.
which is kind of like this nihilistic, like aristocrat, basically, like a rich guy who doesn't care and likes to murder people, which seems like a good version of the Joker. And Jared Leto, in like a recent interview, gave that same description of the Joker and said that he had talked to a big, high-up DC guy about this performance. So he's basically saying he's doing Grant Morrison's Joker, which is how I took it, and I really like that version, but I would say it's similar to Boomerang. Great version of the character, they didn't give him enough to do.
Yeah, that was my only problem.
Yeah.
But here's where I'd interject, again, because they're dealing with so many people in the movie. If they gave him more, it would be a Joker movie.
No,
So,
but I think, why even have him be in it?
And that's where it was leading me to. I don't think he needed to be in the movie at all.
He should have shown up at the end to bust Harley out. That's
Yeah,
all.
just
I would've been fine with that.
like the a simple flashback scene. If they even needed to do that at all. But yes, busting Harley Quinn out at the end, and then revealing that it is the Joker would have been an excellent.
That would have been
end to
super
the
fun,
movie.
and it would have been a good I want to see the Joker next time.
Totally.
Whereas now
yeah.
we just didn't get that. I think he was great. I honestly he's my favorite parts of the movie. The bit, like I said, the bit where he growls and rips off his jacket and jumps into the
Done really
acid
well,
was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. I again, I had zero problem with him, but just like the parts that were written for him, now knowing that the movie was cut separately multiple times, seems like there's obviously a lot more that he was supposed
He had the
to
most
have
cut.
done.
He had 10 minutes cut out,
which
of
makes
Joker
sense
scenes.
because I mean,
And Leto's kind of complained even that he had so much cut out.
Well, it's
complain
gotten
that
to
he's
the
a
point now
psychopath
that
or
Yeah, exactly.
a person has threatened to sue Warner Brothers for not representing Joker the way that the trailer suggested.
I hate when people do that.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Everyone's gonna complain about something.
But I mean, I guess the trailer suggested he was going to be such a pivotal character in it that this guy was bummed out, and he said, "Fuck you guys, I'm going to
It's
sue
like
you."
the Rotten Tomatoes petition. It's so
Yeah.
stupid.
Well, and how do you think you're gonna win that fucking lawsuit? That's just dumb.
Well, I'm kind of torn. It's either that he had too much of a role, or not enough.
I think I didn't actually read, but I saw the headline. I think it was that he wasn't in it enough. That he,
Oh no, I'm just talking about my general thoughts.
Oh,
on
you're
him
saying.
now.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like we were saying. He's kind of right in the middle, right? Like if he had been in it less, it would have been great. And if he had been in it a little more, it would have been great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it would have been awesome to have him come in at the very end and have that be the only part, maybe flashback sequence of her storyline.
Yeah,
or whatever,
do the
at
Harley
very
Quinn
end, nothing
origin
else.
with him in it.
Yeah, and they could have alluded to him the entire time. Just don't show him. Would have been fine.
I loved when Harley had her dream sequence and we saw Leto without the tats.
Oh, yeah,
That was
He
really fun.
He went full Patrick Bateman in American
He
Psycho.
really did, yeah.
100%.
100%.
But I was hoping when she thinks that he dies, I was really, really hoping that he would have been dead and come back in the Batman movie looking for his face like he does in the Joker New 52s, where he's just like, I don't know, you probably wouldn't have read them.
I have read the first few.
So when he doesn't have his face, I think it would have been super badass to have him come in fighting Batman to try and get his own face back. I think that would have been super intense. They obviously didn't do that because he saves Harley.
Yeah, they can get rid of the tattoos that way too.
Yeah.
You can just grow a new face.
Yeah, and there's like no negative ramifications whatsoever to him being in a helicopter crash, like get shot down by a fucking missile.
Even in the
he's just,
trailers,
like,
they have a scene of him in that tuxedo, half burnt up, and he's shooting a machine gun.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the movie. I don't know when that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I assume that was like a backstory of his.
I guess no, because it's apparently again to go with the making him less abusive in this cut. He was supposed to have kind of tried to kill Harley when the helicopter was going down. That's probably where that scene happened.
Him pushing her out in the theatrical cut
Is to save
shows
her.
him saving her, but no, he was trying to kill her.
I will say, I feel like that's a neat twist to have the Joker actually kind of care about Harley. I think that's sort of interesting to have it. Usually he just doesn't give a shit about her, right?
Well,
she's a piece of property, and if someone, kind of how they do the common bit at the start, where it's like, oh, you want her? Now I want her, but I'm going to kill you. But I like that he actually kind of liked her, you know?
It motivates the emotional journey that she makes sitting on that car.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really like I had something to say there, but I completely forgot what it was. I enjoyed the Joker. I enjoyed Harley Quinn. I mean, again, Will Smith steals the movie.
He's great. He's so good.
And he's like full throwback to old like Bad Boys Will Smith, where he's like kind of an asshole, kind of badass, like the perfect Will Smith
Now,
type thing.
I'd like to make mention not just of Will Smith, but considering Jai Courtney is kind of a B actor. Joel Kinnaman is of shitty movies. Joel Kinnaman, he was in goddamn RoboCop. You know, we've got a cast of kind of nobodies with Will Smith and Margot Robbie, but you know, like we've got some. I kind of think like B actors, but they really rose to the occasion. I thought.
It seems like everyone had a lot of fun making this movie to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, the only like the one that I didn't read any or know any of the behind the scenes stuff. The one that seemed like he would have the least amount of fun would be Jay Hernandez.
I know he's like an adult.
Yeah, like he's like a real like I hadn't even seen him in a movie for the past like 7 or 8 years, and then he's in this, and I thought he was super good in it. But it was really, if he's getting into character, he was the only character that's like fucking depressing the entire way through. Like there's nothing funny with his character at all,
except for the other characters' interactions with him.
Yeah, but even then, he's not funny.
Absolutely.
I liked Enchantress. I didn't really enjoy her saying Enchantress. That was a little weird. I thought
her first transformation, where like the shadow hand grabs her and then they switch.
Yeah.
So cool.
That was
so
awesome.
cool.
And then they just didn't do it again.
Yeah.
I think the girl that played her, I don't remember her name.
Cara Delevingne.
Sure, I think she's gorgeous. I thought when
She's a model, I think.
even when she was Enchantress, obviously not very good acting, but she looked good. Even when she was like dirty Enchantress, I was like, yeah.
I've heard a lot of people complain about like when she's like shimmery Enchantress, that she's doing kind of these weird like woo like belly dancing stuff. I kind of liked it. I liked that she was sort of otherworldly. It seemed like that's what a magic. She was just sort of like waving her arms the whole time.
Yeah, and she was
like,
absolutely doing belly dancing stuff. But I think it was like she's doing like attempted full witch doctor type things. Like
I would
that's
like
gotta
more
be a thing.
weird stuff like that. When she went back to Dirty Enchantress at the end, and then they had like there's some really great shots in the movie where it was like she was all in shadow. And you could only see her eyes, and they were all—it was so good looking.
Yeah.
It was so good.
There were some scenes that were done really well. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with her brother.
Yeah, he was pointless.
He was just in it he was in it so that Jay Hernandez could quote unquote die.
They're kind of specifically adapting one of the stories from Ostrander's run there, like the thing with Enchantress and her brother. It's a lot more played out in the comic where like Enchantress is going on all these missions and is slowly taking over. Which I think, to me, that is one of the bigger problems I have with the movie, is that the problem is entirely made by Amanda Waller putting together the Suicide Squad. Like, I would have liked it if there was some sort of external threat that wasn't Amanda Waller's fault.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. My only real nitpicky problem with the movie, like, from a DC fanboy part, was when Amanda Waller just killed all her personnel. And even then, I don't mind that. I would have just liked a scene where afterwards she was like calling their families or something. Like, it seemed very cold for her, and it's not like she wouldn't do a bad thing. Like, she's this bad bitch who does it. You know, she believes that the ends justify the means, but she's also in the comics very willing to take responsibility for the bad things she's done. So I would have just liked to see a moment where she was like, she had to deal with, like, it hurt her that she had to kill those people. I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, and having not read the comics, that was one of my favorite scenes.
It was good.
Because, like, Will Smith walks in and he's like, what the fuck is this? And she just fucking kills everyone. And Will Smith had, like, the perfect chance to be like, bitch is rough. Like, anything. He could have said anything comedic, and I would have been 100% on board with it. But he just says nothing, and she just, like, walks away. And I was like, oh.
That is a mean lady.
Yeah, like, he could have done so much with that.
She's perfect as Amanda Waller. I could not, if I was to come up with a dream casting for Amanda Waller, it would be Viola Davis.
Not Oprah?
Oprah got tossed around, like, back in the day.
Absolutely she did. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's why I brought it up.
Oprah would be fine. I think Viola Davis is
I don't
better.
think Oprah would do it.
I've never seen Oprah put on, like, an icy glare.
How cool would it be to see Oprah go batshit?
I don't think Oprah would have done it. There's no chance. And she has more money than all of these actors put
No,
together.
exactly. Oprah would only do it if she wants to do it. I mean, I'd say the same thing about Will Smith, I guess, but...
Well,
probably, you know what? Will Smith does not have Oprah money.
I don't think anyone in America does.
Yeah.
Except for, like, Bill Gates, you know. Anything else that Killer Croc, again, we discussed.
Croc just didn't have much to do. I did kind of go back to our origin thing. I think they did a good job of picking characters that don't really have an origin. Like, Croc's origin is he's bored and he looks like a crocodile.
Yeah, he's got, like, a skin problem.
Boomerang's from Australia and he robs things, you know.
Yeah.
Deadshot is good with guns. He doesn't, it's not like there was an accident that made him Deadshot.
A1 assassin.
Yeah.
Now, if I can ask, is Slipknot, is he an actual character?
He
or did
is.
they invent him for the movie?
He exists. I couldn't tell you what he is. But he's like a Z-lister. Like, he's around. I don't know if their version of the character was at all related to the actual character, but...
Okay.
In the movie, from what I can gather, his power seems like it's the only power that's worse than boomerangs. It's like, I can climb things. Okay, man, like, that's cool.
The master of knots.
Yeah.
It was so obvious in the trailers that
like
he was
the
going to
Scoutmaster.
die.
Oh, yeah.
They kept showing that same shot of him, like, you know, zipping away. Actually, that was a good boomerang moment where it seemed like he was sort of trying to trick him. He's like, you test it out. You see if this bomb's really real. And then,
Absolutely.
Which I think he actually does in the Ostrander comic as well. I think there's a similar moment where he tells someone, like, there's no bomb, and then you should run. And then he just checks out if it actually is real or not.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they foreshadowed Slipknot not being in the movie at all so many times because he wasn't in any of the promos or anything. Like, he was in that one trailer, but he didn't, like, when they did all of their promo tours and everything, he didn't go on them or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, who's Slipknot? Oh, we don't know. Like, he's not here today. Like, well, I mean, you can just say you kill him. Like, we all know. It's not a big deal.
Even in the movie, he was the only one that Amanda didn't list in her dossier when she was going through...
Gwen Katana. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, she wasn't a criminal, I guess.
And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know Slipknot was going to be in the movie until I saw him in the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was part of the team at all.
Oh, you're like, Master of Knots, alright,
Yeah,
here we go.
Like,
sweet, well, looks like the bad guys are fucked.
Yeah,
because they got another guy.
You can make a fucking lasso really quick. I
That
guess.
would have been great if later in the movie there was a moment where tying knots would have really come in handy.
That would have been
That would have been so good.
Have Boomerang make mention of it.
If only we had someone who could tie knots.
That would be fucking perfect.
And just have Boomerang do a lot of shitty knot puns.
Well, you have to, yeah. I mean, onto the topic of the zombies or the entities. I mean, they're voodoo created. I mean, they're essentially zombies because they're mindless beasts, and that's what they define a zombie as. I didn't really know what they were. They looked like giant fucking pickles that were like attacking people.
And I was okay with it. I didn't even care.
Oh,
I was like, cool. Now, you know, they're taking over people, and the Enchantress is making this happen. That's all I need to know. That's enough for me, and they are getting their asses handed to them by Deadshot.
I was hoping that they were all going to turn into like voodoo zombies and do like a weird little dance or something like that.
Like
But that's just me.
Well,
No, not Thriller, like a voodoo dance.
Okay.
Yeah, like they would have done like the...
Like in the Chipmunks cartoon movie?
Yeah,
Perfect.
basically.
Yeah.
They could sing Willy Willy. I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
I think that's most everything that I think that's like most of the movie.
Okay,
Pretty
so
much, yeah.
before we talk final thoughts, would you guys be interested in A, an Ayer cut, and B, another movie?
I'm gonna see every DC movie until the sun goes out. I don't care how bad they are. That's just me. That's my curse that I'm gonna have to see every DC thing ever. I would love to see the Ayer cut. Like that would I feel like it's probably pretty good, actually. The Ayer cut, like, there's some really good things in this movie, and I would love to see it the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I will say, just not to cut you off, he's been the good soldier. Like, he is like, no, this is the movie I want. Like, I think they've just been like, we'll let you do what you want for the second one. You know,
I absolutely would like to see an Ayer cut. I'd like to see both cuts, or both cuts that they made the mashup with.
Yeah.
Because the pure action one would be like the most entertaining, useless plotline driven movie in existence. And the Ayer cut, from what I'm gathering, what would have been in that movie would have been almost a character study of these people
what it feels
that
like,
are also just fuck people up.
A character study with like a big CG fight at the end. I assume what it would have been, which that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, like not a courtroom drama, but pretty close.
Yeah.
And for a sequel, I mean, if they can get same characters and if they don't just focus on the same two, yeah, I think it'd be super cool. Having them break out Harley Quinn, I would assume that she wouldn't be on the team anymore if she gets, they wouldn't give her the freedom if they arrest her again. Or she just wouldn't be on the team and they'd have to go after her.
Yeah, I wonder, because there is this, Margot Robbie is writing some sort of DC female movie that is maybe they describe it as a Harley Quinn solo movie. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's going to be Birds of Prey. That's what I think. It's going to be the female, Batgirl Huntress, or Gotham City Sirens is another version of that, where it's Poison Ivy and Harley. I could definitely see some version of that.
And I guess there's been mention made that James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame, because he doesn't have another project lined up now that Guardians 2 is done, he's voiced interest in doing Batgirl.
Ooh, alright with that.
Yeah, and someone was saying they wanted to beat Bat. No, it was
That's
Squirrel
Girl. That's
Anna
Anna Kendrick.
Kendrick.
Super on board.
Anna Kendrick wants to be Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, super on board. I think again, if they don't just focus on Will Smith and they bring in, if they make the team, if they make more of the family aspect of it.
Well, I think because they've given as much backstory as is needed, they can now touch on little bits more as they go. But now they can focus on an actual threat that they need the team for. Because it seems like this was, I don't know, the motivation for the Enchantress thing was a little bit questionable to me. I don't know. I felt like it wasn't something that they would use the Suicide Squad for.
It's weird. That was one of the weird things about the movie, actually, is the way they keep talking about, if Superman came in and ripped off the president out of the White House, who would stop him? That was never really what the Suicide Squad was in the comics. They were more they were just a hit force squad, basically. The Ostrander books are kind of like Tom Clancy books, where it's ripped from the headlines stories, really political intrigue that the Suicide Squad is being sent into, basically because the American government doesn't want to seem involved. That's the whole point of the Suicide Squad, is that if they get caught, they can just be it's just supervillains being supervillains.
Yeah,
they were just doing those things. Go ahead and execute them, whatever. And then so it was never really their metahuman defense, which in the context of the movie, how would Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and Harley Quinn stop Superman?
Yeah,
how would they stop? They wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense.
You're saying that they were, you had said before that they were potentially doing a Justice League versus Suicide Squad movie. Batman put all of them behind bars.
They get stomped, yeah. Flash would stomp the entire team.
Yeah, you add anyone to just Batman, they're all done.
Wonder Woman solos this version of the Suicide Squad. No problem.
Well, Batman soloed them. Yeah. And he doesn't have superpowers.
Well, I would say, as far as using the Suicide Squad as a team of antagonists, have Lex Luthor run the Suicide Squad. He can get the dossiers that Batman has showing the weakness. I know this was a comic run and animated feature that I saw. I don't remember what it was, but where Lex Luthor... No, it's not Lex... Maybe Mastermind or whoever the hell it is. He gets all the weaknesses of all the heroes.
The Tower of Babel, I think it's Justice League Doom is the
Justice League Doom, there you go. That's so I mean, you could have Suicide Squad not necessarily be the antagonist, but be working for, a Lex Luthor type character who somehow gets all the information and now has the weaknesses of the Justice League. Because otherwise, I don't think the Suicide Squad has a chance.
That's I bet you they will. If we go long enough, they'll do that Tower of Babel story. Because it's Justice League Doom, in the movie, it's Vandal Savage, I think.
That's exactly
and
who it
then
is.
in the comic that it's based on, Tower of Babel, it was Ra's al Ghul that got the...
Yeah, so just replace, put Lex Luthor.
But you definitely, it doesn't matter who gets... Batman has the file that he's been building of all the weaknesses of the Justice League. Although at this point, the Justice League hasn't really been together at all to betray that trust. They're setting things up weird, but to gotta go back, what do you guys think of Lex? A lot of people don't like Lex in Batman v Superman, but he's a weird take on the character, but I want to see his Lex Luthor interact with Leto's Joker. I feel like they'd be very interesting to play off each other.
I'm excited that they got rid of the hair. That irritated me. Not necessarily because I always picture Lex Luthor as bald, but it just irritated me. He looked too much like a kid, and now at the end of the movie with him having his hair cut off, and now he's verging on the bald, mastermind, kooky, crazy kind of guy. Certainly they didn't have the well-to-do, almost James Bond-esque Lex Luthor vibe about him.
Yeah.
But I don't think I cared that much. I was okay with it. He was a little too cartoony at some points in the movie, but his motivation made sense. And considering how much he was able to piece together, he knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne. He knows that Superman is Clark Kent. He knows Clark Kent's mom is Martha, and where she is, and he can kidnap her.
And by proxy, that Batman's mom is Martha.
Totally,
he knew they were all Martha.
Yeah,
he should have seen that coming.
I'm pissed that I never caught onto it, but he is the mastermind. But now that he doesn't have to be the quirky, weird rich kid, because they do allude to it in Batman vs Superman that the company's not his, it's his dad's. And his dad just named it for him. It's one of the lines in the movie. So LexCorp was just
Lex and LexCorp.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have the opportunity to, without him having an official backstory, Batman vs Superman is the backstory.
That was sort of the weird. It's something I like and don't like about it. It's sort of weird that we didn't get the classic Lex, but it seemed like it was setting up an origin for classic Lex.
It's pushing towards it, absolutely.
I actually think that was one of the more successful parts of Batman v Superman, where they tried to do this very complex, kind of like a character study of Lex, where he doesn't really say a lot of things about him directly, and we have to infer things about his past. Mm-hmm. I really love the scene with him and Cavill on the roof, where they first interact basically, and he has Superman kneel to him. And I like that a lot.
And that's the point where you get the to quote Mr. Show, King shoulda fuck mountain. you get that vibe from Lex Luthor. He is the character that we've been waiting for, and the rooftop scene is when you get it. And they in the Ultimate Edition, they didn't have this in the theatrical version, and I think they should have. If you guys remember the out of place scene where Batman is in the future fighting the Superman army, and they've got the Omega sign, which is Doomsday.
It's Darkseid.
Sorry, Darkseid. Sorry, my bad. In the movie, in the Ultimate Edition, you see some what are they called, Wonder Boxes?
Mother Box.
You see Lex Luthor is in the alien spaceship with 3 of those boxes. And Darkseid's there.
It's Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf, it's his fault.
Yeah. He's like one of Darkseid's generals, the big guy who shows up in the...
Okay. Well, point being that we've got Lex Luthor doing so much, and I thought as an undercurrent to the entire movie, it was his backstory.
Yeah, we definitely should have had that Steppenwolf scene. I think that explains Lex's motivations a lot more.
It tied everything together. Yeah, I thought
that to me is from. Because they released that scene right after Batman v Superman came out in theaters as something that was going to be on the Ultimate Edition, and that 100% should have been in the movie. I don't know why it wasn't. Yeah. It's 20 seconds. It's barely long at all.
It doesn't change the pacing. It doesn't. All it does is it positively affects that future scene.
Yeah, it makes everything Lex does after that point make sense.
Yep.
Where it doesn't really make sense in the movie. Apparently that's sort of what the plot of Justice League is going to be with those 3 mother boxes. So obviously we saw one that got used to make Cyborg in Batman v Superman. That's what the big floating box is. And then the other rumor is that the Amazonians had one of the boxes, and the Atlanteans had another one of the boxes, and so
that could bring them all together.
Yeah, so that's kind of why even in the Justice League trailer that came out of Comic-Con, you see a bit of what looks like Atlanteans burying a mother box or something. So that collecting the mother boxes is going to be like what they have to do to beat Steppenwolf in the movie. That's sort of what I've heard Justice League, which sounds cool. I'm into that.
And we haven't done a podcast on Batman v Superman or anything, but I would like to make mention of how great it is that Joe Morton didn't learn from Terminator 2, and he's Cyborg's dad. How did he not? Talk about a bad. That's the Shyamalan twist. Is that Cyborg is actually part of Cyberdyne.
I can see that. I didn't mind Lex Luthor. The Lex Luthor that I know from the comics and the previous movies was Gene Hackman, obviously.
Yeah, it was a little off book already, anyways.
Yeah, but I always. Him as a personality I thought was fine, but him as a physical character, I always liked Lex Luthor. To me, was always like at least equivalent size of Superman.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll do that because that's a more modern thing. Usually, like back in the Silver Age, Lex was kind of overweight, and then in the modern stuff, they've had him kind of be fitness obsessed as like a way of equaling Superman. Like he wants to be peak human, right? Like I always think of Lex as being like he's just a shade away from being Batman, right? Like if he could just get over his hatred of Superman, he'd be Batman. But he.
So I mean, I love Jesse Eisenberg. I think he's great.
But I was gonna say, I wonder if we're gonna see him bulk up in the next. Because he shaved. I wonder. Bulky Eisenberg seems weird, but
it seems terrifying. To me, it'd be like Carrot Top.
I agree. That to me is like an essential part of Lex. So I wonder if we're gonna get that. That he is he's very vain, right?
Yeah. The metaphysical parts of him, I thought were fine. I mean, he was kind of like almost mad scientist, almost crackhead. Like he had a little bit of he jittered a little bit. And
they made him mentally
nice,
ill in a realistic way.
Yeah, and that was a little uncomfortable for me, just because I was like, oh, this is what dealing with crazy people is. Yeah. That's rough.
But
I don't think he was fully realized on his own. He had an internal struggle until he got on the ship and he was able to finally piece together what his plan is. Then we get the scene on the rooftop. All of a sudden, bam! This is we've now got a terrifying antagonist.
Yeah. I really liked how he was 3 steps ahead of everyone. I love it. The scene at the end where we realize that he knows. Not only does he know that Clark is Superman, he knows that Bruce is Batman. He's been paying attention. I like that a lot. I like that Amanda Waller do too.
Okay, so why is it that that Lex doesn't get branded? The wall gets branded instead of Lex at the end of Batman. Branded at the end of Batman and Superman. Because Lex is pretty fucking terrible.
I think the point there is that he's. I mean, they also do a weird thing with Batman where we're seeing him at I think is what the most violent we're ever going to see him in the movie.
I hope.
I think the point at the end with him not branding Lex is that he's realized that Superman was right, that he had gone too far, and Alfred too. Alfred is telling him this throughout the movie that he's gone too far.
Finally grew.
So he's been inspired by Superman's sacrifice to be this better hero, to try and be Batman again, essentially.
Okay,
as opposed to the Bat monster.
And watching this Ultimate Edition, I have to say, Jeremy Irons. I am so glad that they made an Alfred who is not only hands-on with Batman, but he's also calling as you say, he's calling Batman out on his shit.
Yeah.
Bro, you should dial this back a bit.
Oh, Michael Caine did that too.
He wasn't as hands-on. I mean,
He's sewing him shut.
Jeremy Irons, he flies the Batwing.
I liked how Jeremy Irons also he was kind of like the mechanic, he was building all of the stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
He was the Lucius Fox, and also he was kind of bitter because there's not going to be a Batman heir, an heir to the wing.
Yeah,
the undertone of that was pretty funny because I think they mentioned it 2 or 3 times. He was like, "Oh, I guess this isn't happening."
I love a classic Bruce or Alfred complaining that Bruce is never going to have a son or whatever.
Yeah.
I also like this is a really small moment in Batman v Superman. There's a bit where Alfred is working on the Batmobile or something, and Bruce brings him coffee. Oh, that was really nice. That that's how far they've come. Bruce is serving the servant. They're not butler and master at all. They're just partners.
They're best friends.
Exactly. Because their father and son.
Does he call him Master Wayne? I don't think he calls him Bruce the whole time.
He always used to call him Master Bruce.
Yeah, but he's just Bruce, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that even.
I haven't seen the movie since the theater, but still not continuing.
Yeah, I don't know. There's never really a moment where he's talking to someone else. Usually when he's calling him Master Bruce, he's talking to a third person, like
Yeah.
referring to Bruce.
Yeah,
Oh, fair enough.
I
Okay.
wonder. I doubt he even gets paid. To be 100% honest, he probably just is so used to it, and then just has all of the funds that Batman has.
Yeah, they've got a joint checking account.
Yeah,
Probably.
Batman probably just gave him a trust, right? Or
Yeah,
like-
he was probably just like, you know what, like, man, like, you've done.
It's an excellent
more.
point. They should
Yeah.
go into that.
I meant to touch back on this when we were talking about the Joker as Jason Todd thing. There was a throwaway line that I picked up on immediately, but I didn't relate it to anything until I read this theory about the Joker. At one point, Bruce Wayne, he makes reference that not everyone stays good.
Yeah, I know.
Which it
I'm
hints that
curious
somebody
what that
turns
means
bad.
as well.
And
I agree.
I thought that would work as a Jason Todd has turned bad, but not
that
necessarily.
was part of the reason that people thought
I
that
think,
Jason
well, I
Todd
mean, he could also mean that about himself.
or Harvey, you know, like
Anyone.
Harvey Dent is.
Because I mean, like, he once wouldn't hurt people. In this, he's fucking just like slaughtering humans.
Does he kill anybody?
Oh my god.
in
he
Batman v
shoot-
Superman, he does. Yeah.
Oh
No.
my god.
No, but does he actually? When we take away the future scene where he's shooting people,
Dude,
in
he's shooting that car. The car
When-
flips like
when he,
35 times.
When he's like when Martha is being attacked and there's the guys that are on the Gatling gun.
he
and
blows up that
he
guy.
shoots at them with the
oh,
Batwing.
I guess he does.
I don't see any way in which he does not kill those
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, you don't see him like, you know, double tapped at the back of the head, but like that dude who has a flamethrower on his back, like he's dead.
Again, you know, and then there's the bit in that same sequence where he kind of like kicks the grenade into guys. Like I don't mind some stuff. Like I don't mind the like in that scene where people are kind of dying, but he isn't specifically killing them. I don't mind people that die through trying to kill Batman. Like that's sort of their own fault then.
Absolutely.
And even the flamethrower scene, like that's sort of silly, but it's a specific reference to a scene in Dark Knight Returns
Yeah.
where like a guy's about to kill a baby and he says, "I believe you," and he shoots the guy. But even in that scene, we don't see that he necessarily kills that person. But when he just Gatling guns the guys in the Batwing, I don't see how those guys aren't
No.
dead. And even if they're not, it's such a not Batman thing
They're
to do.
they're Nerf bullets.
Maybe.
Well,
That's-
I mean,
again,
velocity, it's still motherfucking
in Dark Knight Returns, there's a bit where the Batmobile's like a tank in that one,
Yeah.
and he's shooting all the mutants, which are this gang of guys, and he's shooting them all with these guns. And then the little voiceover box comes up and it says "rubber bullets." On it.
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Um,
So in case anyone's wondering, the mysterious fourth voice is Patrick's roommate Andrew. He's just walked in.
Andrew, say hello.
Good afternoon, folks.
In 3 minutes or less, thoughts on Suicide Squad?
Not bad, not great. I expected worse after I heard general reviews, to be honest, but kind of a happy mess.
That's a good way to put
That's
it.
pretty
I like
good.
happy mess.
I'm
yeah.
really
Okay.
fine with it.
Okay.
Joel
So
Kinnaman kind of said the same thing, Rick Flag, where he's like, I think the negative reviews helped it. Like, I think because people came in expecting a 1 out of 10, and it was really a 4 out of 10 or whatever, they were happy with the 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I equated it to being, for me personally, I thought it was better than Batman vs. Superman. I gave it, like, high-ish 7. You know, like, it was as good as,
Way better than Batman vs. Superman.
well,
Just saying.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was as good as Days of Future Past. I
No.
didn't think it was as good as any of, like, the big Marvel hits. But I thought it was better than, like, First Class and any of the original X-Men movies.
It's probably better than Iron Man 2, you know? Like,
Yeah, not as good as Spider-Man 2, you know.
No.
But Spider-Man 2 is, like, great.
I'd say it's probably better than Amazing Spider-Man 2, though.
I think it's better. Well, I think it's better than both Amazing Spider-Man.
I kind of like Amazing Spider-Man 1.
We talked about this in the first podcast that you were part of. The biggest issue there was that Spider-Man was a little too hipster cool guy.
Yeah,
he
I
wasn't
get
a nerd.
I get why people didn't like skateboarding Peter Parker. That was a weird
Yeah,
choice.
my-
for
and
them to do.
his pretty foofy hair.
My difficulty with Amazing Spider-Man 2 is that it's the exact same movie as Amazing Spider-Man 1.
It is, yeah.
Like,
They
100%.
really. I don't know why they focus so heavily on Gwen Stacy again in the second one. It's because that's the only thing I like about the first one is that I think Garfield and Emma Stone are really good together, and their romance actually feels believable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where that movie succeeds, where it's kind of the first superhero like romance movie. Like that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Wolverine and Jean Grey, just saying.
There you go.
Thank you, Jansen.
Deadpool and
Rita
Copycat.
Baracus.
Well, that was after.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I guess we can do final thoughts. This is officially our longest podcast.
Ooh, baby.
So let's do final thoughts.
Hour
on
and
Suicide
100
Squad.
minutes long.
Final thoughts?
Lots of
or
things.
would you see it type thing?
Yeah, I would recommend seeing it. I think it's
Sorry.
worth seeing at least once. Like if you're even remotely interested in it, there's gonna be at least something you like. You know, so I like it. I would definitely see more. I want better from the DC movies, but this was there was a lot of ambition here. You know, it wasn't like they just crapped this out to make money. Like, I feel like people were trying, and I think even like in messing up the movie, they were trying to fix the movie. So it wasn't, whatever. I guess that's what they're always trying to do. But okay, Happy Mess was a really good way to put it. I like that a lot.
I got nothing, man.
God damn it, Andrew.
Yeah,
Looks
that
like
was-
he won the day.
Yeah, that was fucking perfect.
Throughout the entirety of this podcast, I've been on my phone texting, making plans to go see it again tonight. The shows, and throughout this entire podcast, I've been defending the movie vehemently. I think it was fantastic. I've zero immediate issues that needed to be solved. I'm a fan.
So
I would say
you-
again, I'll probably also see it again. So I think
Oh,
that's probably
yeah.
the best thing you could say about it is I do want to see it again.
So you would obviously recommend it then?
I would recommend this almost as much as Triple X3, the Triple X-ing.
I'd recommend it. I mean, it's fun. Even if you don't know anything about the comic books, they explain just enough that you're not lost at all. And if you don't care about the comic book aspect of movies, it's a really generic, like, fun action movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of interesting things that happen, and, I mean, if you like Will Smith, you're gonna like this movie.
He's really good. I think
He's
that's
like-
probably the biggest
he's
selling point.
great.
His Deadshot scene, the two actually, where he's testing out the guns
Yeah.
and he's going down the street. I don't think they've encapsulated a character better yet.
Those are two.
In DC.
Those
In-
are probably
in DC.
the two best DC action sequences, I would say.
Thus far, yeah.
There's some good ones in Batman v Superman actually, but I like the Doomsday fight.
Now, I will make mention to you guys and anyone who might be ever listening to this. I've come to the point now where I'm not as concerned with taking the comic book and putting it onto screen as I used to be. I was particularly adamant with the Marvel Cinematic Universe at first because they were changing things and I didn't like the way they were changing it. But then I finally realized that the comic books can exist as they do. This is just a way to visually represent these guys on screen. So if they go away from the comic books a little, or a lot even, as long as it's good, I don't think I care anymore.
I think it's nice when they kind of play with your expectations. Like, I know a lot of people were upset about the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3, but it was sort of fun that, like, the Ben Kingsley Mandarin was, like, the comic Mandarin, so we expected that was who he was going to be, but then obviously there was a twist to the turn that it didn't quite end up being that way. Or, like, Bane in Dark Knight Rises, that was sort of a fun twist, because we know in the comics you expect that Bane's going to be the big bad. It doesn't really work out that way. I agree. I like when they use our knowledge of the mythos against us, kind of. Like
Yes,
where they,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not a
And Iron Man 3 would be my specific. That's the one that finally made the turning point for me.
You were like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I'm totally a fan of it because they did that so well, but they also didn't just throw it in your face. They left the opportunity for the Mandarin to be still the bad guy, hanging in the wind there. I thought as far as I'm concerned, Iron Man 3 was the best of the Iron Mans. I thought it was so good.
I'm a big Iron Man 1.
I love Iron Man
1 booster.
I know we spoke about this in the first podcast about the emotional journey and the having to deal with all the shit that happened. Finally caught up with Tony Stark, and Iron Man 3 was a character study more than anything else, and I'm a big fan.
That's fine.
So, anyways, final notes on Suicide Squad. Happy Mess.
Yeah, that was... Couldn't have put it better. Like, we could have cut down seemingly 104 minutes.
Yeah,
of
we
this
should have just,
podcast.
if you only had come in at the start, we could have shut this off.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and I assume you were going to say your tagline.
Cookies.
Well, that's the squad goals.
Thanks very much, guys.